This meeting is
Okay.
being live streamed. Got it. Hang on, it's not quite yet. It should be in a minute and I'll say when. I can't see you yet, but there we go. Now, I think we have to, I want to make sure. Hi, everybody. It's Anne. Oh, but I'm frozen. Am I frozen or are you frozen? Or neither one of us?
Neither one of us to me.
Oh, okay, good. Hi, you guys. It's Anne. You know, your techno expert here in Bloom. I am so excited because I'm here with Kristen Kassa. This is her book, and The Hint of Light. And we just discovered that Kristen and I share the same editor at Lake Union, and I'm just here to talk about her book. I want you guys to meet her. I love it when we can bring in new authors so that you guys can discover them, especially Kristen, is this your first book?
It is. It's my debut novel.
It's so exciting. You must feel so excited.
I am. It is surreal, to be honest. It's just been an unbelievable experience. So good.
Have you been writing your whole life?
No. This is a new career for me. My formal education is in finance, and I have an MBA, and I worked on Wall Street, and I did all the numbers things. And then back when the recession hit, the early recession, the one in 2008, when that hit, and I had a little extra time on my hands, I came up with an idea. I was reading a book by Dan Brown, actually. I think it was called The Lost Symbol. And I remember thinking, this is really unique. It's set in Washington, D.C. It's where I grew up. I knew the areas he was talking about. I could really visualize the settings. And so when I was reading that, I thought, well, you know what, someone really ought to write a book set at my alma mater, the University of Virginia, because it's 200 years old, established by Thomas Jefferson, has secret societies. It's a beautiful campus, but it really would be the perfect setting to set a suspense novel. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should write that. So I had this extra time and I started tinkering, and I came within 1 week, I had a full 8-page bullet point outline of a story. I just started chipping away. And that was my first attempt at a novel, which is not the one that we're talking about today. That one is tucked away under a bed. We'll probably not see the light of day, but it
sounds so good. So
it was a labor of love. Maybe someday I'll delve back into dark academia. But for now, that's not the one we're here talking about.
So tell us a little bit about this one, because, well, I'm not gonna interject my opinions on it yet, which is, you go ahead. It's beautiful. It's a beautifully written book, but
thank you.
Yeah, tell me about the book and tell me about when you came up with your idea, just like you just told me about the idea for your other one.
Well, this one is definitely more personal. This one is a story of a grieving woman who recently lost her adult son. And at the time that she is going through this difficult process, she understands that he may have fathered a child that she hadn't been aware of. So she, as part of her grieving process, she goes on this desperate search to find this phantom, mysterious granddaughter that she hears about. And it is that journey that I cover in The Hint of Light. And I say that it's personal because it was actually inspired by someone near and dear to me who passed away. And I remember thinking passionately at that time, wow, wouldn't it be great if there were some legacy that he left behind that, you know, none of his family and friends knew about, that we could embrace going forward. And as improbable as a wish as that was, I made it a fictional reality. So that was, you know, really the genesis behind that story.
I think that when you have a personal connection like that around a story that is outside of yourself, you can really, I don't know, like grab onto the motivation to keep moving in that direction without feeling too much pain, but also helping you work through your own grief related to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, it's not nonfiction, it's not memoir or anything like that, but it was cathartic to write this story and to give a little spark of life and hope to what might otherwise not necessarily be a nice ending. So
So, have you shared it with the people that were close to you related to the loss that you
Yeah,
had?
yeah, I have.
Yeah, good. That's great. I mean, I figured that would be the case. And they must be touched by that effort of you to do that.
Yeah, I've definitely, it's hard because we were all touched in different ways by
Sure.
this person. And I really don't want to go into the background of
No.
exactly what that is, but um everybody, and as is exemplified in this novel, people go through grief in different ways. And I really um found it a journey myself
Yeah.
to go through and experience grief. It was I've lost other people in my background, but this was probably the closest person that I have lost to date. And so it was my own reflections as well. So there is a little bit of a mirror moment going on in
Sure.
there, a lens that you don't wish anyone has that chance to see, but that at some point most people will.
Yeah.
So,
I love the title, The Hint of Light. It seems perfect for the book.
oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Was it your first title? Like,
It was
can
my
you
third.
your third? Okay. Well, I mean, I love this part where people tell me about how they got their titles and where that came from. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So the working title, as I would drafted the novel the first time, was called My Guardian Dear. And that was a nod both to the fact that I have many sets of guardians or parents in the novel itself. So there's a grandmother, granddaughter, father, son, mother, daughter, there's mother, son. There were a lot of different parental dynamics involved in this story. It was also a nod to my background, which is Roman Catholic. It is a children's prayer in the Roman Catholic faith that many children grow up saying at bedtime, and is basically gives the indication, please, angel of God, protect me while I sleep. So it was a nod to both of those.
Yeah.
The second title was Secrets We Bury, which is taken from a line in the book in which a mentor mentions to somebody else and says, the secrets we bury deepest can hurt us the most. And I really felt that really encapsulated the scope of this story.
Yeah.
It wasn't just parents, but it's also what we do to ourselves and the consequences of what we do to ourselves and what we impose on others. So I thought that title was great. And so did my editor and my publisher, until we got to the point where in the production process and we realized that there was a novel in their catalog that was way too close to that one. And so
Oh,
I was going to have to go and rethink the title again. And then we churned through idea after idea after idea. And actually, I have to nod to the editor who we share, Melissa, who came up with the idea of The Hint of Light. And it's taken from a line at the end of the book. And so this is sort of the aha moment when there was a shift, a clarity that is new to the character. So we named it The Hint of Light. And I went through my last pass of editing and way beyond where you're supposed to do any substantive change at all. And she was really, really, really generous with me because she let me add one more thing related to the title, The Hint of Light, at the very end of the book to give it a complete 180 and so that the reader passes through this twice. And in one respect, the aha moment is super positive. And in the other respect, the aha moment is hold it, wait a second. But it's this moment of clarity where two different characters experience the hint of light and have completely different takes on it. And I thought that would be pretty good for a meaty conversation in a book club with a lot of wine and some passion about, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like I love that idea. I just love that you can come to a place where there are such polar sort of reactions to anything, and grief is one of those things.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I also find combining the grief with something else, which is a theme that tends to, I tend to strongly embrace in my fiction writing, and that is unconditional love.
Mhm.
I feel, especially in the parental relationship, there are moments that you will do anything instinctively to protect your child as a parent. In many cases, I'm not saying that this is universal, but it's widely experienced.
Absolutely.
And when you put that unconditional love in a pressure cooker situation, people, even in real life, can act in unpredictable ways,
Mhm.
depending on what they're bringing to the table, their own lens, their own priorities, and then just let's mix this up with a whole lot of Tabasco sauce, and you are just going to have an experiment. I think it can be a relatable situation in fiction. I think it can be a very relatable situation in real life. And I think it can lead to a lot of unintentional consequences. So it to me offers very fertile ground for writing as an
Mhm.
author.
Yeah.
And so there's
Well,
some of
you
that in
put,
this as well.
yeah, you put, sort of the normal individual, the day-to-day person who we're just sort of making it through our lives, and you put them in a pressure cooker, and you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen to yourself until you're put in that situation. You can sort of think about it, you can assume you might act a certain way, but we just don't know. And that, I think, is what's fun about the discovery of writing, right? You
Mhm.
have these characters, and as you're writing it, you're like, I wonder what they would do if I did this. I wonder what they would do if I did this. And then you get to sort of, you get to be the maestro of watching those people sort of go from a normal person to somebody who is responding outside of the normal realm. The
I think
norm.
it's kind of funny the way you, and actually completely accurate, the way you just described that. You're the maestro that's watching the characters, because my characters tend to take over. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what I plotted. It doesn't matter where I intend for them to go. They're on their own, and I am just taking notes.
It's funny because I say that too. And before I was a writer, I would hear people say that and I'd think, really, what is that like? And I still can't really describe what it's like, except it is that way. You're writing, things are happening, it's coming out on the page before you really think about it. And next thing you know, you're like, I did not plan that. And it
Right.
could be better. I love this. So I always feel like I'm being whispered to. And I know that sounds very woo-woo, but I can't help but feel that way.
It is amazing. It's sort of like, it must be. I have only attempted surfing once, and I didn't catch many waves, but when you do, and you're riding that wave in, you really feel like you are in a harmonious situation. So when the wave runs its course, I keep writing. I absolutely love those moments as an author.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it was a lot like improv. Whenever I have done improv, or even I used to do stand up years ago, and I certainly have spent a lot of time lecturing. And I think that it's that you haven't really planned what you're going to say, and it comes out. And I think that's what we're always doing all the time, all of us. We're walking across the street, you didn't expect to see a turtle, or you're walking to the store and you didn't expect to see a friend, and we're just constantly improvising. And I think writing that is being the person who is watching it all and writing it down, right? Watching life improv and getting it all on paper, right?
Absolutely.
How long did
Absolutely.
it, I'm going to ask a question that I think is sort of an unfair question, because people are always asking me, how long did it take you to write your book? And I never know what to say, because I always think, are you asking me like the first draft? Are you asking me like till it's done? And so why don't you give us an idea of how long it took you approximately to write the book?
I wrote the bulk of this book during a NaNoWriMo month.
Oh,
I
okay.
kicked it off, plotted it, started it, got maybe 15,000 words in, and then wrote 50,000 during Nano. I won that one Nano time. Yay.
Yay.
Got my little certificate. And then it took a little while longer. I was on sub with another book and had to do iterations of revisions and editing for that one. So this novel was tabled for a little while, and then I picked it back up again. So all in, I'm going to say it was like maybe 18 months total, even though the bulk of it was written in 1 month. And then I ended up working with it with my agent on it. The initial draft really had heavy grief in the beginning, and this was during the pandemic, and we were all pretty concerned that that may not be too appealing to the readership at that time. The world needed happier diversions. So I ended up writing the I'm going to say the P word, a prologue. And it's not advisable, but I ended up writing a prologue, which bookends the novel with the epilogue. And that really did help to alleviate the tone at the beginning. I think, in my personal opinion, readers may disagree with me on that, but it was, I think, helpful in terms of establishing that this was less of a grief motivated novel and more of a parenting motivated novel, and the consequences of parenting choices that we make.
An exploration of the love and attachment of parenting, right? And through the eyes of what happens if you lose one. And I think, you know, in the very beginning, what we have in your book is this great sort of setup of a woman who lost a child, but and then not only grieves that child, but also does what most women do whenever anything doesn't go well, and that is to take on the blame of it. And I think that that's a very common thing. When things go wrong, we look for someone to blame, but I think that women are notorious at blaming themselves instead of, you know, just living in the moment of loss and trying to figure out, you know, what is going forward. Instead, we have to feel like somehow or another we did this. And I'm not sure what that's about. I think it's part and parcel what we do with women in general, sort of make them responsible for everything. But I love how you tease that out through the book and sort of take some of that off our shoulders. And I think that people really need to read that kind of thing more.
I think it's also interesting that the different generations of women have been brought up to believe a certain set of expectations and circumstances and probably personal burden. Whereas I think we've done a healthy job as women helping future generations to shed that expectation. And that was one thing that I wanted to not necessarily highlight, but just bring into the dialogue, that there are different approaches to life and what we how we all personally accept traumatic situations and process them and move on into life based on that.
When I so who do you think, talk to me a little bit about who you think your perfect reader is? I mean, not perfect, but like, who is your reader base? Who do you hope reads the book besides everyone?
Besides everyone. I think my perfect readers are going to be moms. I think a reader who has an understanding already within her own life of what it's like to live for another person, not in a romantic sense, but in a protective sense, a guardian sense, and who has been in a situation where she may have been pushing a stroller, and like when my oldest was a little toddler. I was walking down the street pushing a stroller, and a dog started like off leash galloping up to the stroller. Without even thinking about it, I burst in front of the stroller and body shielded my kid. I didn't even think about it. The dog did nothing but wag his tail and lick and everything. So it was a friendly dog, but I didn't know that at the time. I'd never seen this. It's the woman who has instinctively done something unpredictable to her prior to that very moment to protect a child. She is the one who will approach this book with this open-minded perspective of, okay, anything can happen. Anything can happen, and I don't know how I'll react. The only thing I know is I will do the best for my child instinctively.
So, yeah, I think anyone that has someone that they are in charge of and that they're devoted to.
So they might approach this book with the open-minded sense of it all depends. And then let's add a little bit of wine and a bunch of women in a book club, and let's get the dialogue going.
Yeah, right.
Because I think my ending, I did not write the ending to be comfortable. I wrote the ending to ignite a passionate dialogue.
Yes. So when you were thinking your way through it, did you know how you wanted it to end?
I knew the mechanics of how I wanted it to end. I knew the ending. What happened though, when I sold the book to my editor and went through developmental edits, the developmental editor, who was just phenomenal to work with, she pushed back a little bit, and she said, I don't think the motivation for your ending is strong enough. And so she sent me back to think, and I agreed with her, and I shifted slightly the angle, the lens that I added to that particular character, and gave what I think could be a relatable and organically relevant motive.
So what is, just to that sort of, the question before that actually is, who is the point of view of the character? I mean, what character's point of views are you using?
I have three that I toggle between. So it's dual narrative. Dual timeline before and after. And very quickly on, this is not a spoiler, but this all relates to before Kyle's death and after Kyle's death. And I have 3 point of view characters. So obviously Kyle's only in the before timeline. The after timeline is his mom, Margaret. And again, not a spoiler, the granddaughter, Allie, she toggles between before and after. So those are the 3 point of view characters. So it's Kyle with his daughter, Allie, and then the after is Margaret searching for her granddaughter, who she, not a spoiler, but she eventually finds.
And because what if she hadn't? So what's great about that is we get to know Kyle very well in the book, more in some ways, really better than the mother knew him, because we really get to see him. We really know him, right?
Right.
And it's beautiful that there's a thread between the mother and the son. That's Allie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that what's nice about that is that we get this sort of gorgeous triangle of points of view where we understand the characters so much better, because you have a sneak inside each one of their brains.
We do. And it also brings to mind more questions for discussion and meet. Can you really believe in rehabilitation and second chances for a person? Can you judge that from the outside? Do you need to be in someone's head to really understand where they are and what they're going through day to day, plus their background and why they got here and what they're doing? And it's tough. it is tough. I don't have answers,
Hmm.
but it is something that I do address and let the reader decide in the book.
Yeah, the best kind of book lets the readers decide. So tell me, we're getting close to the end of our time here. Tell me, I see when it's launching, it's very soon.
Yes, 10 days now, I think. August 29th.
Yes,
It's just
and
before Labor Day, so it can be in your beach bag for Labor Day.
so we'd love it if people would pre-order it ahead of time. That's
It would
always
be great.
fun for the author. It shows the publishers that people are excited about seeing it, right?
Yes, and they're actually right now until for the next 9 days, there's a Goodreads giveaway. My publisher is doing giving away 100 Kindle copies of The Hint of Light. And I can go back into the Facebook
Please do.
post and add the link to that so people
Yeah.
can get in line, and I can add a link to the buy links as
Yes,
well.
please do that. And also, go ahead and put in where we can find you on social media. We like to be able to look you up and find you and let the people that maybe missed the live broadcast can see where they can find you and have a conversation. My favorite thing is when someone reads my book and then they DM me.
Oh, love it.
And so they'll
Absolutely.
sometimes DM while I'm reading it, while they're reading it, or sometimes after. And it's just so much fun because you get to have your own little book club with that person. As they
Absolutely.
talk about your book. Yeah.
And I have an ARC I can give away.
Oh, you
So,
do? Good. Oh,
yeah.
yes, that's right. I'm so glad you said that.
So you get to decide how anybody can win this.
It's
Any
very,
of the bloom at Tall Poppies.
yep. I think the best way to do that is to tell us just a little bit about what you might talk about in your book club. If you were to read this book in your book club or with your friends or something like that, put a little line in the bottom in the comments, and then we'll just go back and pick a winner and get you to give us your address so we can send it to you.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can get an early copy, or you can win one from my publisher, or you can buy your own, or actually also ask your library to add this to their catalog. I would love, 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 love to just scatter library copies all over. Yeah. It would be wonderful.
That would be great. So I think we probably should sign off. This is my first chance meeting you. It was lovely to meet you. I'm so glad you came in today.
Thank you for
and thank you
having
for
me.
joining us. It's so nice for our Bloom readers.
Thanks, Anne. I've been a big fan since forever. This is a dream come true. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yep. Well, I'm sure we'll see you around, and please don't leave Bloom. Just do whatever you want here and have a good time and comment as you go along. That will be great to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay.